Welcome, I'm Jan Kugel and this is the second episode of GMP History Saga. If you haven't seen the first episode, I will leave a link to it in the comments. In the last episode, I gave a brief overview of what GMP is. And then we traveled to the 1900s, where it was a real wild west of medicine. Charlatans were selling magic potions and the actual drug manufacturers had no regulations whatsoever. But 1 year later, things started to change. In 1901, St. Louis Board of Health in the USA produced a vaccine against diphtheria from the blood that they had taken from a horse named Jim. They then discovered that Jim was infected with tetanus and killed him. But it was a shame to waste perfectly good blood, so they continued to use the serum for diphtheria vaccines. As a result, 13 children died from contaminated injections. In a non-related case from the same year, 9 children died from contaminated smallpox vaccines. Then, many deaths too late, it became clear how important it is to use high-quality raw materials for the production of drugs. That led to the formation of the Biologics Control Act, which became effective in 1902. The act established a board to oversee the implementation of regulations of biological products. It also required that all products be labeled accurately with the name of the product and the address and license number of the manufacturer. The act was the first milestone for the establishment of the FDA, but it required another push to get there. In 1905, a book called The Jungle drove public opinion for change. The book was a novel written by Upton Sinclair. The book talked about the exploits of immigrants in the country. The hero of the book was Jurgis Rutkus, a Lithuanian immigrant whose family slowly decayed physically and mentally because of the plant conditions in the country. His father dies because of unsafe work conditions in a meat packing plant, and his son dies from food poisoning. He also wrote about unsanitary conditions in which animals were slaughtered and processed, and the practice of selling rotten or diseased meat to the public. He also reported that ground meat sometimes contained remains of poisoned rats and even unfortunate workers who fell into the machinery. Although it was a novel, the public became highly concerned with several passages exposing health violations and unsanitary practices. The uproar reached President Roosevelt, who agreed with some of Sinclair's conclusions. In 1906, his administration created the Pure Food and Drug Act, which was a series of significant consumer protection laws. To uphold those laws, the administration established the Bureau of Chemistry. The regulations required manufacturers to list active ingredients on the label of a drug's packaging, and the drugs could not fall below purity levels established by the United States Pharmacopoeia or the National Formulary. In 1930, the Bureau of Chemistry became the US Food and Drug Administration. It was apparent for the FDA that the Biologics Control and the Pure Food and Drug Acts were not enough. They gave no jurisdictions over cosmetics, medical devices, or advertising and forced no standards for foods. The FDA's Chief Education Officer, Ruth DeForest Lamb, and Chief Inspector George Larrick created an instrumental traveling exhibit in 1933 to highlight around 100 dangerous, deceptive, or worthless products that the FDA lacked authority to remove from the market. Because the exhibition was so shocking, it received the name the American Chamber of Horrors. To find out what was in the exhibition and see GMP coming to life, don't miss next week's episode. If you liked it, share it with someone who likes a good story. Stay compliant and see you in the next video.